Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I welcome Omu, where we're going to be talking about transformation, personal growth, living your best life, and many, many more things. We're excited to dive in. So just a quick introduction to Omu, and then she can go a little bit into her story. So Omu is a transformational coach and calls herself the Vision Pruner. She works with you to live your best life. So welcome to the show, Omu. Glad to have you here and we can make it happen. Could you tell us a little bit? Yeah, excited to have you here. Could you tell us a little bit about perhaps your story that got you into becoming a transformational coach, and maybe one or two points about you and what you do?
It's a very long one and I'll keep it short. So I'll start with my personal development journey. I've always been very keen on reading and exploring stuff. I mean, just I would try and then decide whether I like it or not, but I'd always give it a try. And so when the John Maxwell team started in 2011, I hopped on it. And I always say that I had no intentions of being a speaker, trainer, and a coach. I didn't even think I had the capabilities to be one. But I knew that I wanted to develop myself. So that was why I joined the John Maxwell team. And of course, in 2011, there was no Zoom and the internet wasn't wireless. So it was very, very dicey and tricky, and then we used to use like a free conference call and all that. But I mean, I managed to keep at it. And for the longest time, I never could call myself a coach, a speaker, or a trainer. I just went on doing different courses. I'm an extremely shy person, so it was way out of my comfort zone to speak in public and I also felt that I needed all the resources to call myself a coach or a trainer. So I went on to, I'm also an ardent gym, I call myself a gym rat. And a lot of people would ask me then, oh, how do you lose weight? I also didn't think that I was in a position to advise people on weight loss because I hadn't learned it. So I took another certification in lifestyle and wellness. My thinking was that that was up my alley since I was always in the gym. And I still was not coaching or training on that. And that was when I knew that it wasn't about what I had studied or what I had learned. It was about me stepping out of my comfort zone. And I knew that I needed to network. So when BNI came to Nigeria, I joined BNI because I felt, okay, at least it was a formal environment to network without necessarily putting yourself out there. And BNI gave me the launching pad to speak in public because I had to stand up every week to present my business in 60 seconds. And then I went on to become a national trainer. So I had to train the whole of BNI Nigeria. And then I became an executive director. That paid off with my other skills. And so I took my John Maxwell training. And then, of course, I joined Paul Martinelli. I took some more courses there. And then that's how I met Joseph McClendon. And then I became a neuroencoding specialist at the same time as a brain health coach. So all that put together were the resources that I had. And now I needed to narrow it down to know exactly what I wanted to do with the resources that I had. And what best to start was myself. So I went on knowing what I know now, I went on a journey myself, and I discovered that the reason why I was doing those courses in the past was actually imposter syndrome and fear of failure. I just felt that I needed that one more course before I validate myself, and one more course after the other course. And every time I say this, I say, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with taking several courses, But at the time I was taking the courses, I was taking them for the wrong reasons. Thankfully, they've come in very useful. But at the time that I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So I went on that journey. I also went on a journey of discovering what my true vision and purpose was. And that's when I wouldn't say stumbled. That's when I worked with one of Ivan Meissner's books, which I started training on. And that's where I developed the training on living your best life. And it basically takes you through determining what your values are. Also, in the course of the journey, I realized that I was always tired and felt like my energy, I don't know if it happens to you, but you go out and you have friends or you mix with people and have conversations, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the individuals in themselves, but you come home feeling really tired and not satisfied.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I couldn't pinpoint what it was until I went on this journey, and I found out that when you don't know what your own values are, there's a tendency to attract and absorb anybody and any value. And when you're dealing with values that don't quite align with yours, you can never truly live your best life.
Wow, that's quite a journey, Omu. So, yeah, you went through several things. Went from the John Maxwell world to the brain revolution that I started on as well, and then to the Joseph world, Dr. Amen. And thanks for sharing about the whole imposter syndrome thing as well. That's, this, I think I can relate to that as well. Going like course after course after course, right? But you get very heavy credit card by the end of it sometimes, and then you get to a point where you got to like pay it off. Yeah, totally relate to that. So just like someone out there, I want to touch on values as well, but in terms of that imposter syndrome, maybe someone's like, I really want to do something, but I'm not, like, I don't feel like I'm ready to go out and use what I've learned. I need to learn a bit more. What can they do, like, as maybe a bit of guidance for like a first action?
It's funny because even when I thought I had gone through the journey and I was okay, it was actually Joseph McClendon that kind of hit the nail on the head for me. And that was my aha moment. And when I started asking myself questions, the first thing I ask myself now is why? Why do you think so? And who said so? And a lot of times the answer is me. So I'm the one who thinks I'm not able to do it. I'm the one who thinks I'm not ready. I'm the one who thinks I'm not good enough. I'm the one who thinks I need one more course. And until I stopped saying to myself that I wasn't ready, irrespective of what anyone around me said, I still believed I wasn't ready. So it was so bad that people would say to me, oh, you can do this. And they would approach me and I'm like, oh, no, I can't.
Your own narrative was stopping you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So changing that narrative a little bit, and being able to change it. Like Joseph says, as I think, we start with the think, the feel,
absolutely.
the do, the have.
I actually have it here and here. I have it all over.
Oh, I love it. I have it. I have an exercise I do 5 times a day, which Joseph gives, and it involves me saying that poem as part of that routine that goes through 5 times a day. So it's a bit automated now. Doesn't mean like you have no problems, but it just kind of helps you work through some of those things. I find that's cool. You got it plastered everywhere.
Absolutely. And I mean, it just makes you, it keeps, what it does sometimes, and I'm happy you said that it doesn't mean you don't have the problems, but it just puts you in a better place to deal with it.
Totally. Yeah, just for the listener, for clarity, what I'm talking about here, because me and Omu were like obviously referring to something. There's a poem our mentor or one of our mentors, Joseph, says, and it's as I think, so I feel, as I feel, so I do, as I do, so I have. So it starts from the thoughts and your psychology, and it's, as Omu was touching on, about like some of that narrative, some of the words that she was thinking were kind of affecting how she is feeling and what she is doing and how she is acting. And that was certainly me holding myself back with the self-doubt as well in the past, to go out and do stuff like launch a coaching business, go and do sales roles and things like that. So yeah, it's important to recognize that narrative and that thinking part. Just to kind of clarify on that, I want to touch on values a little bit, because you and it's really fascinating. You should bring it up because there's like few people recently I've been talking to have kind of brought up the whole values thing, and you were talking about having values that don't necessarily aren't the same as the people you might be with. How do I mean, there's obviously a bit of work to it, and that's kind of some of the work you might help people with, I guess. But how can people? What can they start to do to understand their values a little bit more? Because we're so like busy these days.
Yeah, so I stopped to. Usually I say to people, first of all, I was shocked. Let me not say shocked. Because I was in the same position as well. When you say to people, "What are your core values?" They either stop for some seconds to think, or they reel out some values: honesty, authenticity, blah 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 blah, and all that. And for me, one of my values is keeping to time. And I know that sometimes it's inevitable, but I expect communication, But I said to them, when you say, for instance, keeping to time is your core value, you should ask yourself, do I get to meetings on time? Now, if you don't, and of course you have to be honest with yourself, if you don't, then what it might be is that it's an aspirational value. So a lot of us call our aspirational values our core values. And it's okay to have aspirational values. When you realize that they are aspirational values, then you can begin to create steps to work towards making them your core values. So I used to be really disorganized. I'd never kept a diary until the lockdown. Because of several meetings, I honestly, for the first time, started having to enter meetings in my diary. And then moving forward, I started using my Google Calendar. I've always had it, but the only thing you would see there are birthdays that it has automatically put in. But now I can't function without my Google Calendar, and I've programmed it to remind me 1 week before, 2 weeks before, depending on how far apart it is, 1 day before, 30 minutes before, things like that, just so that I'm on time. So if you feel that that is a core value you want to possess, then you put structures in place to live that core value. So you can imagine if your core value is sticking to time, and you're collaborating with someone who simply does not keep to time. There's some people like that, and there's really nothing wrong with them. I have a very good friend. She's my very good friend. She's very nice. She's fun to be with, but she just simply can't keep to time. If she says, pick me up at 5, you get to her house at 5, even when you've called to say you're on your way. You get to her house at 5, and she's probably just going into the bathroom. But I love her dearly. And so I said to her, so that we don't have any friction, let's agree to meet at the venues we're going to. Let's not go together. So there'll be no picking up. and there'll be no one who's upset.
Right. So putting those like kind of boundaries in place, I guess, almost. Yeah.
I'm very particular about setting boundaries, and it's very important if you want to live your absolute best life. I mean, keeping to time and the example I gave seems quite not too, it might be neither here nor there for people, but I mean, there's some people in all of this, like I said to people, there's some things that are just deal breakers for you. So like me, a deal break, a no, complete no for me is negativity. For some other people, they can say, oh, it doesn't really matter. She's okay. I'll just ignore. I can't ignore. And I'm not ready to absorb your negative strength. So it's really left for you to decide, and left for you to know what works for you and what aligns with you. And then you learn to block those things out.
Right. Okay. So yeah, you're pretty much being very clear on your like values, and then you're therefore putting the structure in place and the boundaries in place to be able to support them and live them in your lifestyle as well.
Yes.
Because yeah, I guess you could have about like a value, and then you're not necessarily able to live it, and that could frustrate you. I guess because you don't have the structure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Okay, great. So yeah, thanks for sharing about the values. I'm always fascinated to hear about values. Could you tell us a little bit about you call yourself the vision pruner? Could you tell us a little bit about that and what that entails?
So it's also my journey. I like to teach what I've practiced and what I have learned. For the longest time, I couldn't understand when people say vision, purpose. It sounded so airy to me. But then, I mean, I read it. I have several mentors, and I know for a fact that they're not lying to me. So there must be something I need to do. And everyone can be saying the same thing, and they're wrong, and I'm right. You know. So I decided to actually go down that lane of actually analyzing what my vision is. I found out that also because I'm online a lot, I network a lot, I read a lot, I was close to that habit of starting one thing and not seeing it to the end, and starting another. And then when you're quite good at quite a lot of things, you find out that you're all over the place. So I decided I had to sit down and ask myself, really, what is my vision? And in doing this, we are also having to break those limiting beliefs that you have, because sometimes you need to permit yourself that you can have that vision. So for the longest time, I had a vision where, so like before I had the training on living your best life, I had the vision of just living my best life, and I had to define what my best life meant to me. And it took me a while because I felt, a lot of people would associate living your best life with being extravagant or traveling or just living la vida loca. But that wasn't what it meant to me. So it took me a while to tell myself that, listen, you deserve to live your best life. And irrespective of what anybody thinks it means, the most important thing is what it means to you. So I went down analyzing what my vision is, and then pruning it in the sense that I'm asking myself the whys, and the ones that are authentically me, not the ones that I have acquired from seeing it on social media or from hearing it or from thinking that that is the way it should be. So you're asking yourself those very hard questions. is this what you really want? Not because that's what majority of the people are doing, or because this is what is in vogue on social media, or because you have to follow a particular trend. So, and this, I'm not saying if your vision is to follow the trend, really, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But the most important thing is that it's yours and it's what you want to do.
It feels right for you. Yeah, I really love what you just said there, because something I'm always fine-tuning and discovering, and it was definitely, especially when you got into the whole pandemic, there's, you know, people were like lighting up left, right, and center on social media. It's like, oh, this way to make money. Oh, that guy's got a jet. Oh, this guy's you know, you want to be a billionaire. And it's like, do I really want to be a billionaire, or do I just want to be financially, you know, well off, and, you know, having some time with people who matter to me? Yeah, there's a lot of things, and then there's lots of people like setting their program. For example, there's another coaching program I'm in, not the one we're in together, but another one, and quite a lot of people ended up there not actually wanting to be coaches, but the guy they followed is a really big influencer, great guy, amazing podcaster, amazing coach, a big kind of icon. And because people were listening to him, and then they were following his page, he was like selling the coaching program with integrity, of course, a good guy. But then a lot of them got into thinking that they wanted to be a coach, and they get in and they realized they didn't. It was just something that was like, this guy's a coach, this guy's doing well, I follow him, I want to be a coach. And then they discovered they didn't. So yeah, that was an example I was thinking of then.
Yeah, that happens. It actually still happens. And I think it's actually worse now, because everywhere on social media, they're selling something to you. And you need to be really, really sure of what you want, because everyone sounds really nice and, you know, life-changing. So you really, really need to know what you want and stay focused. Yeah. And I think that the only way you can do that is when you know your vision. And like a lot of, I don't like to use the word purpose because it's been overflogged, but when you know your vision and what you really want to achieve, then that way, I mean, you're better able to know that, okay, this is good stuff, but I don't need it. This is good stuff, but it doesn't tie with my values at the time. This is good stuff, but it's not in line with my vision.
So with the values, is that one way you can start discovering your vision? I'm just thinking for the individual maybe listening who's like, I have no idea what my vision is, kind of thing.
Absolutely. So when you know what your values are, usually at every point in time, a lot of people have a vague idea of what their vision is. Maybe not sure, but they have a vague idea. It might change every hour, but they have a big idea. When you begin to prune down your values, when you determine what your values are, then you find out, then you start asking yourself questions. That's when you find out whether it actually ties with your vision. So say, for instance, one of my visions is to be on global stages, right? If one of my values is not in building relationships, building authentic relationships, there's no way I'm going to be going on global stages by sitting down here. And so there are also some things that don't align. I mean, okay, I didn't mention, for instance, before I went into coaching completely, I also run an event planning company, and we do mostly destinations. As time went on, I stopped doing weddings and I started planning retreats, because that was in line with my vision of speaking, training, and coaching, not weddings and honeymoons, right? So I had to tweak it to fall in line with my vision. If I am not open to traveling, to meeting people, then there's no way that I can fulfill that vision of mine. Now, if that is truly my vision, which by the way, I had never been a fantastic networker, but when I determined what my vision was and what my values were, I had to go and tweak it and begin to learn and improve on those values that would serve me to get to what I want to achieve.
Well explained. It's really sort of like eye-opening for me as well, in terms of, aligning the vision and the values. So yeah. Omu, like, thank you so much for sharing with us all this information about values, vision, living your best life, and really not getting sucked into, like, the day-to-day noise and getting stuck in that. And sounds like this has been part of your journey. You've really identified it. So just to kind of like wrap things up, really, is there any final point that you want to share with us? And also, if the listener wants to find more from you or get any more from you, where can they find you?
Okay, the final point that I want to share is that the answer lies within us. There's so many voices and so many influences that we all are exposed to in the year 2023. But ultimately, the answer lies within us. So I always encourage people to sit down quietly and have those very strong, serious conversations with themselves, because irrespective of what I say or what you say or what anybody says, if you haven't said it to yourself, it's not going to happen.
Having those, yeah.
And then I have a free ebook that kind of talks about it, and it's called Living Your Best Life, and they can download it on my website.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well, so the listener can get a direct link to that and then find some more information.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Omu, it's been a pleasure to have you on, so thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Jenny. I had a nice time.
Awesome. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember, you are in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.